to our class on neurobrutalism. This class is basically for beginners, people who have seen the design style somewhere online, maybe on my page or somewhere on the internet, maybe Pinterest or something, and you're wondering, how did they used to create these fine things in here? So I'm here to give you like a quick guide on how to create it. Yeah. So let us begin with an introduction. Who am I? What am I even doing here? Right? So first of all, my name is Chukwadeze Victoria, and I am a brand strategist, creative designer, and brand surrogate. Right? I have 7 years of experience in the industry, and I think I'm the right person to teach this design class because I've been practicing this style for over a year now, consistently. I have studied it, I have researched it, and I feel like I'm in a very good place to give you like a guide on how to create it, right? So let us start off with what neo-brutalism is. It's important for us to understand the history of something so that we are able to create the future of it. The book of Proverbs, book of Elders, chapter 7, verse 1 says, we need to understand the history of something so that we can create its future. That's just me playing around. Anyway, let's jump into the cocoa of the matter. Where does this neo-brutalism something even come from? Gone self, right? Neo-brutalism is inspired by architecture, right? Neo-brutalism comes from the word, or it was coined from the word brutalism, and brutalism in itself was coined from the French word béton brut, which means raw concrete. The reason why it was coined from that, it was called raw concrete, is because the brutalist architecture in the 1950s, I think it's 1950s, I'm not quite sure like what the timeline is right now, but the brutalist architectural movement in that time had a very open sort of style, right? So they would build structures and have just the bare concrete showing. You know how you have your normal houses and your office buildings, and you put glass and metal and paint it and make it look nice and all of that. Those ones, they don't even have time for those things. The style itself requires that the concrete be just the way it is. You don't paint it, you don't cover it. That's how it is, right? So it has a certain rawness to it, a certain amateur rebellion to it, right? So that's where the brutalist architecture came from. And then after a while, it became an art movement. So people began to use that texture of concrete infused with some geographic shapes and a lot of bright, high saturated colors, and then they began to use it to create art, and that's where we got brutalist art movement, right? So that's basically where it comes from, right? So a lot of the elements that you will see when you begin to create work that is under the neo-brutalism design style will probably have some elements that have perspective to them. Perspective, I think we all understand what perspective is, right? So it will have some form of perspective to them, right? And because it is gotten from architecture, these perspectives usually look like if you were like in an helicopter in the sky and you were looking down at a building. So what would the shape of that building look like following a geometric shape? So this is an example of it. This is the building from an aerial view, and this is the neo-brutalist version of it, right? So we can then use these blocks to create whatever it is we want to create. So this is area view. This is the ground view of a building and how it converts into a neo-brutalism element. So I think we are in a good place understanding how this thing works, right? So if you want to create some of these things, you may need to take a look at some buildings. I have some tabs open here, so you can take a look at the structure of, this building. You can take a look at, other ones you might find. Oh, guy, guy, that you might find that you might find on places like Free Peak. So look at the structures of these buildings, aerial view, area. I have a lot of aerial views here. I don't know why, right? But here, area view, ground view, side view, rounded edged, whatever. I really like this one, and I think it's, something that someone can, play around with creatively, right? So we have all of this to inspire our creative work when we begin to delve into, how to create elements for neo-brutalism, right? The structure of neobrutalism, what is the ingredients that goes into the soup that is called neobrutalism, right? What does it consist of? It is a style that actually uses simple elements like geometric elements, circles, rectangles, squares, and all those other simplified geographic shapes, right? It's very minimalist in nature, right? Meaning that where brutalist art movement and brutalist design is very complex with a lot of violent looking elements, neo-brutalism is a little bit more tame, is more minimalistic, right? And has a lot of high saturated colors, a lot of bright colors that are mixed with some muted colors here and there. And one of the greatest characteristics of neo-brutalism is the stroke on the objects, bold stroke weights and drop shadows. Those are the two most consistent characteristics of neo-brutalism, and you will see it in some of these elements that I've created here and some of these examples that you see here, right? So I would like us to actually take like 10-15 minutes. I'm not sure how much time I've spent already. I'd like us to take like 10 to 15 minutes to create something from scratch. I've not prepared anything ahead of time. I just want us to. I really wish this was a live class. I would like to answer questions directly, but this is it's what it is. So let us create something. This is our naked artboard. So yeah, I have a couple of elements, to be honest, that I have already put in here. These are some of them. The mesh thing, right? But let us start from the very beginning. We have our background color, right? Done. We have an element of that we want to add, which is the mesh. Usually this style is used by the fintech industry, right? And that's because it is very, what's that word now, it is very dynamic, yet looks very professional. And that's why most times when you are taking inspiration, it usually comes from looking at office buildings, not houses, not estates. It usually comes from looking at office buildings, right? So because fintech is a kind of field that is very corporate, right? But at the same time, people are trying to break out of being boring. So neo-brutalism is kind of the best kind of style for you to use in that kind of an industry where you are trying to be dynamic, you are trying to be fun while still appearing as corporate and serious. So that's what neo-brutalism does. So let us start off with establishing what our background color is going to be. I have a color palette here, and if you permit me, I'd like to use that color palette, right? So we said we've chosen purple. Let us, I don't know, anyone. You can choose yellow, whichever one works, right? So we've chosen yellow as our major background color, and now we are going to put our mesh on it. Now, because we don't want the mesh to take all the attention away from what we are going to be creating, we can do two things. You can take the like a lighter version, like a darker version, sorry, of the mesh, the background color. You can decide to make it a lighter version as well. So for us, what we are going to be using is like a slightly darker version of the color of the background, right? And then we have that. Secondly, we are going to create a text, right? So let's say neo brutalists. So let's say this is what we are doing. Right. So let's say this is what we're doing. I'm going to bring it closer a little bit and expand it. So yeah, we have this. Right. So like I mentioned earlier, one of the most consistent characteristics of neobrutalism is brutalism is the stroke weight and the drop shadow. Right. So we are going to quickly apply stroke weight first. Okay, we're going to apply stroke. The stroke is looking too thin for me, so I'm going to just say 8 points. You can use any stroke weight that you like. You can reduce it to 4 if it's too much. You can reduce it to 6 if 8 is too much for you. But let me use 8 for what we are doing, right? So we have done stroke weight. The next thing we want to do is create a drop shadow. Now, personally, to um I don't like to create drop shadows directly from the layer style, like coming here to say drop shadow. I don't like to do that, and there's a reason why. I don't like to do that because it gives a sharp edged effect. Look at it, it gives a sharp edged effect, and that sharp edged effect, it does not it's not the same with what the actual text is. So what personally I like to do, and which may not be conventional, may not be normal, is duplicate this text, right? I switch off the first one. I switch off the first one. I convert the color, change the color of the text at the back to black, while still retaining the stroke. Oh, I change the color of the text to black, put the one at the top back, and just simply count as I move it to the side and to the top. I usually like to use a 45-degree angle arrangement. So now look at it, we are in a good place, right? So now we have done the stroke weight, we have done the mesh background, we have done the um, drop shadow, right? The next thing that we may want to now do is add any other text, any other thing that you want to add. So let's take, for instance, we want to add with CAV at the back here. So we can add this rectangle. You can change the color if you want. Let's use our color palette here. Change the color if you want. Color of this guy to maybe, I don't know, should we do pink, should we do blue, purple, whatever strikes your fancy. I want to take out the stroke that is on this one, right? So now I'm going to apply the stroke to this guy. Why I like applying strokes from the layer style is because it gives it a slightly rounded edge while still retaining the sharp edge in the middle. I just like that, I don't know why. So I think I want to change the color of this text at the top, right? Oh, I like this. It's loud, but I like it. Let's see what else we can do. Ooh, I like this one too. Whichever one works, whatever strikes your fancy. The world is your playground. Enjoy, right? So we have done that. Now we are going to write with CAV, reduce it and change the text to Arial. So let me change this to capital letter, change it to white, make it bold, and reduce. One thing I forgot to mention is that neo-brutalism uses a lot of bold fonts, right? That's because of the amount of effect that it takes on, like, imagine, like, you have stroke, you have drop shadow, some people even go and add texture to it again, right? So because it has a lot of effects on it, you may want to try and reduce, like, increase the boldness of your font so that it is not only legible, it is visible, but it also looks good. So I'm going to duplicate this guy like we did for the text, close that first one, and change this to black, put the one at the top back, and now I'm going to move it slightly to the edge like this, so that it looks like it is casting a drop shadow to the floor. Mm-hmm. So let's move this guy a little bit to sit properly. Right. All right. So we have this. Let's zoom out and see what we have ready. Okay. So this is looking good already, right? So another thing that I want us to do is create geometric shapes, right? Let's start with using a circle. So I'm going to draw a circle. Let's make it look like a coin. So I'm going to draw a circle, remove the normal stroke that comes with it. I don't like that one. So I'm going to draw a circle. Let's make it purple, add stroke to it, then duplicate that circle, close the front, add black to the back, and just pull the back out. There you go. So you can keep it like this, right? So this is one option. So now we have this one element, right? Now we have this one element. We can duplicate it and bring it over here, probably change the color here to something else, duplicate it again, make it smaller, just something to add a bit of fire to what we are doing, a bit of style to what we are doing. So okay, so let's just keep it consistent. Let's keep it the same color, or we could make it white. That's how my mind works. So no vex, my mind is just all over the place when I work. I try play around with a lot of things to see if there are other possibilities. Okay, so we have done circle. Now let me show you how to create the one for rectangle or square. So I'm going to group this guy and switch it off so it goes away. Now I want to create the one for a square. So I'm going to first of all a rectangle, I mean. So I'm going to first of all create this beautiful rectangle over here, remove the stroke that comes with it, change the color, add stroke, just like we've done a couple of times now. Add stroke, duplicate this guy, make this guy at the back black, and pull it down at a 45-degree angle. So this is one way to do it. So you could have something like this, right? And maybe add if you have a logo or something, you want to add a logo to it, you can add a logo to it here, right? Let's say Zari so let's say this is your logo. You can add it to it, or let's say you want to add date and time. This is a good place to add, let's say, dates. All right, let's add dates. Let's say the date is November 24. Let's just say this is the date you are going with, right? So November 24. Is there a way to make it bolder? Yeah, can do this. So this is what we're going with. This is a way to make the neo-brutalist structure using rectangle. You can make another type that extrudes a lot more. Let me show you how to do it in Photoshop. You can do it in Illustrator as well, but right now we're going to work with Photoshop, right? So now we have this. Let's change the color to white, add the stroke. Now this is where I need you to listen carefully, right? So we are going to duplicate this guy, take this one at the top, bring it up at a 45-degree angle to like this place, right? Now we are going to create a new layer. Use the pen tool from the edge of the white part. If you like, you can take out the stroke so that you are able to see it clearly. From this white part, you just click, then connect it to the edge of this other rectangle. You see that? Hold down your shift key so that you have a straight line and connect it to the end of this rectangle. Do this. Hold down your shift key again. Do this. Now release the shift key and click on this other end. Then connect it, and that's all. You are through. Right. So you come here, you click shape, and it gives you this. You can click U and take out this thing. We don't need the rectangle, the stroke that comes with the shapes. So now that we have done that, we are going to move this guy to the back. You can change it to whatever color you want. Then stroke, add stroke, and put that other stroke back. So now it looks like this, right? We are not through. We still have a little bit of distance to go. Now the next thing I need you to do is go to where your shapes are and click on the line tool. Create a new layer and connect this place to this place. So you make it look like an actual box. So you can go up here, make sure your fill is black and your stroke is black, right? And make sure whatever stroke weight you're using, it complements the current stroke weight that you're seeing here. So bring it to the middle between the white background, the white rectangle at the top, and the pink extrude at the back, right? So now that we have that, we are basically done with what we are creating. Let me change this to purple so that it has proper contrast. You can change it to black, whatever you want. You are free to do anything. So this other white at the back, we don't need it again. We just needed it to kind of tell us where we are going to go with our pen tool. So we can just delete this, and if I group this, you see that this is the entire structure here. So you can use it to add whatever you want. So you can use it to replace, let's say we use it to replace with CAV over here. So it stands like this. You can bring it to the edge so it looks like it's coming from the back. And then you can add your with CAV, or whatever it is you want to add. If it's date and time again, you can add it, to this place. So that's essentially what neo-brutalism is. So now you have this one, you have this one, you have a lot of beautiful things going on for you. If you want to put this at the back, you can do so. Just drag it down to the back of your group of text, and then you can see it choking his head out from that back. Let us see this properly. You see how lovely it looks. So this is basically how you create a neo-brutalism flyer. So whatever other information you want to add, based on your knowledge of what layouts are supposed to be, you can still follow that knowledge, create amazing stuff. And if you'd like to tag me on social media, you can go ahead as well. And to the whenever I have the free time, because I can be very busy sometimes, no vex, right? But if I have the free time, I would always come around and say one or two about what you have created and give you any other additional guide you may need. So I hope this has been super useful to you. This is Neubrutalism class with CAV. You can follow me on social media and see some of my works. I also have free downloadables that you can get. So you just let me know that you want something, and then I'm going to forward it to your email address. Thank you, and have a fantastic rest of your month, life, years, week, day, whatever you want. Just pick one. All right, bye bye.